The first one is the title story, and it starts like this. About a year ago, I bought my first home in what seemed like a perfect suburban neighborhood, tree-lined streets, well-maintained properties, and friendly waves from neighbors walking their dogs. The house itself was everything I wanted. 3 bedrooms, a fenced backyard for the dog I planned to adopt, and a short commute to my job in cybersecurity. I'd spent years saving for a down payment, and finally having a place to call my own felt amazing. What the real estate agent conveniently glossed over was the HOA situation. Sure, they mentioned there was one, but they failed to mention the president who ran it like his personal thief. Let's call him the HOA head. This guy had been running the association for almost 16 years, and to say he took his job seriously would be the understatement of the century. My first encounter with him came just 2 weeks after moving in. I was still unpacking boxes when I heard a knock at the door. There he stood, clipboard in hand, wearing what I can only describe as an official-looking polo shirt with a neighborhood logo embroidered on it. "Good morning," he said, not bothering to introduce himself. "I notice your grass is approximately 3.2 inches tall. Our bylaws clearly state lawns must be maintained at 3 inches or less." I blinked at him, wondering if this was some kind of welcome prank. It wasn't. He proceeded to show me a small ruler he'd used to measure my grass. Not only that, but he had photos on his phone documenting the violation from multiple angles. "I'm just getting settled in." I explained the lawn is on my list for this weekend. He nodded curtly. "See that it is first violation is just a warning, but subsequent infractions carry monetary penalties." Then he handed me a printed copy of the HOA guidelines. The thing was nearly 80 pages long. Over the next few months, I got to know the HOA head's routine all too well. He conducted daily walks through the neighborhood, documenting everything from improper trash can placement to unapproved garden gnomes. The notices he left weren't just informative. They had this passive-aggressive tone that made you feel like you'd committed some terrible crime against humanity by leaving your garden hose uncoiled. I tried to stay under his radar, really I did. I'm not confrontational by nature, and I figured the easiest path was compliance. I mowed my lawn, religiously kept my trash cans hidden, except on pickup days, and even got approval before planting new shrubs in my front yard. What I didn't realize at the time was that the HOA head's control issues went far beyond mere rule enforcement. He seemed to view our neighborhood as his personal kingdom, and himself as the all-knowing monarch whose job was to protect us from ourselves. Around 3 months after moving in, I started noticing odd inconsistencies with my mail delivery. Working in cybersecurity has made me particularly vigilant about personal information, so I tend to track expected deliveries. At first, it was small things. A credit card statement arrived, opened, and hastily resealed. A package notification showed delivery, but the package itself didn't appear until the following day. Given the nationwide postal issues that had been in the news, I initially chalked it up to system problems. I even called the local post office to ask about delays, but they assured me everything was operating normally in our area. The situation became more concerning when I realized an important document related to my grandmother's estate hadn't arrived after she passed away earlier that year. I'd been named executive, and the paperwork from the probate attorney was time-sensitive. When it didn't show up after a week past the expected delivery date, I called the law office, and they confirmed it had been sent. The mystery began to unravel during a conversation with my next-door neighbor. While I was washing my car one Saturday, we got to talking about neighborhood quirks, and she casually mentioned, "Oh, has the HOA head spoken to you about your mail yet?" I paused, water hose in hand. "My mail? Why would he need to talk to me about my mail?" She looked surprised. "Oh, I thought everyone knew he checks the mailboxes regularly, says he's watching for suspicious packages or security risks, been doing it for years." I must have looked shocked because she quickly added, "I'm sure he means well. He's very concerned about community safety." That night, I couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said. I knew enough about postal regulations to understand that tampering with mail was a federal offense. If the HOA head was interfering with deliveries, he wasn't just being annoying, he was breaking the law rather than confront him directly with just suspicions. I decided to gather evidence first. My background in cybersecurity came in handy here. I installed a small, discrete security camera with a direct view of my mailbox. It was motion activated and sent alerts to my phone. Whenever someone approached for 3 days, nothing unusual happened. The mail carrier came at the regular time, and no one else touched my mailbox on the 4th day. However, I received an alert around 2 p.m. I opened the app expecting to see the mail carrier, but instead saw the HOA had systematically opening mailboxes along my street, including mine. I watched in disbelief as he removed several pieces of mail from my box, flipped through them, and then placed some back while putting others into a canvas bag he carried. He moved on to the next house and repeated the process over the next week. I documented this happening 4 more times. The pattern was clear. He would make his round shortly after mail delivery, removing items selectively from various houses. What was most concerning was that some mail never made it back into my box at all. I decided it was time for a conversation. I approached him one evening when I saw him inspecting someone's holiday decorations with a disapproving frown. "Excuse me," I said politely. "I was wondering if you might have seen some mail that was supposed to be delivered to me. I've been waiting for some important documents that seem to have gone missing." His reaction was telling. Instead of surprise or confusion, he looked annoyed as if I'd caught him at something. "Mail delivery isn't really an HOA matter," he said dismissively. "I understand that," I replied. "It's just that a neighbor mentioned you sometimes check the mailboxes for security purposes, and I thought maybe you'd notice my missing documents." His expression hardened as, "HOA president, I have a responsibility to ensure nothing dangerous enters our community. There have been incidents of mail bombs and anthrax in suburban areas. So you do check the mailboxes?" I pressed. "I maintain surveillance of potential security risks," he said evasively. "It's all authorized under the community security bylaws." I knew this was false. I'd read every page of those bylaws after our first encounter, and there was nothing granting him or anyone else permission to tamper with private mail. "Could you show me where in the bylaws that stated?" I asked. He bristled visibly. "Section 12, paragraph 4 clearly outlines the board's authority to implement security measures if you have a problem with how I protect this neighborhood. You can bring it up at the next meeting. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have other properties to inspect." He walked away before I could respond, but his defensiveness only confirmed my suspicions that night. I reviewed all the footage again and compiled it chronologically. I also printed out the relevant federal statutes regarding mail theft and tampering. The situation escalated when I received a notice from my grandmother's attorney that they were considering alternative arrangements. Since I had failed to return the time-sensitive documents when I explained the situation, they sent a duplicate set via certified mail requiring signature confirmation. The day those documents were delivered, my camera alerted me almost immediately after the mail carrier left. The HOA had approached my mailbox, but this time I was ready. I walked outside just as he was opening it. "Finding anything interesting in there?" I asked calmly. He jumped, clearly startled by my appearance. "Just checking for suspicious items," he said, recovering quickly. "There was a report of unusual packages in the area." "That's funny because I just got a notification that a certified letter was delivered to me. It requires my signature, not yours." He closed the mailbox quickly. I wasn't going to remove anything, just performing a routine security check. "I'd like you to empty your bag, please," I said, pointing to the canvas tote he carried. "That's private property," he snapped. "So is my mail," I countered. "And I have reason to believe you've been taking it." "I don't have to explain myself to you," he said, turning to leave. "If you have concerns about HOA procedures, submit them in writing for the next meeting." As he walked away, I called after him. "I've already submitted something in writing to the Postal Inspection Service. They seem very interested in my video evidence." He paused briefly but didn't turn around. Instead, he quickened his pace and disappeared around the corner that evening. I completed my formal complaint to the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, providing them with all the video evidence I'd collected, dates of missing mail, and documentation of the certified letter incident. I also spoke with a local police officer about filing a report for theft. 2 days later, I received an unexpected knock at my door. It was 2 postal inspectors who wanted to discuss my complaint in person. They took my statement and reviewed the videos I'd captured, expressing particular interest in the pattern of behavior. "This isn't a minor infraction." One inspector explained mail theft is a federal offense carrying penalties up to 5 years in federal prison and substantial fines. The fact that it appears systematic and ongoing makes it even more serious. They asked if other neighbors might have experienced similar issues. So I started discreetly asking around. What I discovered was shocking. Several residents, particularly elderly ones, reported missing mail, delayed packages, and even cases where personal documents had clearly been opened and resealed. One elderly resident told me in a hushed voice that she'd stopped having her medications delivered by mail because they frequently arrived with pills missing. Another neighbor mentioned tax documents that arrived opened, which he'd attributed to postal damage until I shared my concerns. What became apparent was that most people were either too intimidated by the HOA head to complain or had simply accepted his behavior as normal. After so many years, he had created an atmosphere where challenging his authority meant risking social ostracism or petty enforcement of obscure HOA rules. The postal inspectors suggested setting up a sting operation. They prepared several pieces of test mail addressed to me and other cooperating neighbors, then monitored deliveries using both my camera system and their own surveillance. It didn't take long. 3 days later, the HOA head was caught red-handed, removing test mail from multiple boxes. This time he didn't just inspect it. The investigators followed him to his home, where they witnessed him opening and reading through the contents. When they confronted him with a warrant, they discovered something that made my blood run cold. In his home office was a filing cabinet containing mail belonging to various residents. Some items dated back several years. Most disturbing was a folder labeled with my name that contained the missing documents from my grandmother's estate already opened. The arrest was quiet but effective. The postal inspectors took him into custody early one morning, avoiding a neighborhood spectacle. However, news travels fast in suburban communities, and by afternoon, everyone knew an emergency HOA meeting was called by the vice president, who seemed genuinely shocked by the revelations at the meeting. I presented everything I discovered, including the federal statutes that had been violated and copies of the video evidence. I want to be clear, I told the assembled neighbors. This wasn't about catching someone checking for suspicious packages. This was systematic mail theft, tampering with private communications, and in some cases stealing prescription medications and important documents. The reactions were mixed. Some longtime residents defended the HOA head, suggesting he must have had good reasons or that I was exaggerating the situation. Others, particularly those who had experienced missing mail, were outraged. The tide turned completely when one of the postal inspectors attending the meeting revealed the extent of what they'd found in the HOA head's home. The itemized list of stolen mail included everything from personal letters to financial statements, medical information, and legal documents. In my 15 years as a postal inspector, he stated firmly, "This is one of the most extensive cases of systematic mail theft I've seen by an individual. The violation of privacy and federal law here is severe and carries significant penalties." The legal process moved swiftly. After that, the HOA head was charged with multiple federal offenses, including mail theft, obstruction of correspondence, and unauthorized opening of mail. Given the scale and duration of his activities, prosecutors pursued maximum charges. During this time, the HOA underwent a complete reorganization. New elections were held, resulting in a board made up of younger residents and longtime homeowners who had previously felt silenced. The new president, a retired judge, immediately implemented transparency measures, including recorded meetings and an online portal for community communications. As for me, I was able to recover most of my stolen mail through the legal proceedings, including the original documents from my grandmother's estate. The probate process had been delayed, but the court granted extensions once the circumstances were explained. The criminal case concluded with the HOA head pleading guilty to reduced charges in exchange for returning all stolen mail and paying restitution to affected residents. He received a sentence of 18 months in federal prison, 3 years of supervised release and substantial fines. Additionally, a condition of his release prohibited him from serving on any HOA board or in any position of community authority several months. Later, I received a certified letter this time. It actually made it to me directly. It was from the federal court containing compensation for damages related to the delays in my grandmother's estate. The amount wasn't life-changing, but it represented something more important. Just as the neighborhood has changed significantly since then, the new HOA leadership operates with transparency rather than intimidation. Rules are enforced reasonably with warnings and dialogue, replacing punitive measures. Most importantly, a culture of community cooperation has replaced the atmosphere of fear. That once prevailed, I've become something of an unofficial resource for neighbors, with questions about privacy rights and security. My cybersecurity background has proven useful in helping the HOA establish secure communications and proper data handling procedures. What surprised me most was the number of people who approached me privately to apologize for not believing me initially, or for enabling the HOA head's behavior. Over the years, one elderly neighbor brought me homemade cookies and tearfully thanked me for putting a stop to the mail theft that had been causing her so much anxiety. I thought I was losing my mind. She confessed my heart medication would go missing, and nobody believed me. I started to think maybe I was just forgetting things. Because of my age looking back, I realized how easily someone with authority can abuse their position when people are afraid to speak up. The HOA head had created a system where challenging him meant becoming a target, and most people found it easier to comply than to resist. The lesson I learned is that standing up to bullies who hide behind rules and regulations isn't just about protecting yourself. Sometimes you're fighting for everyone who can't or won't fight for themselves, and sometimes doing the right thing has ripple effects that improve life for an entire community. So if you're dealing with an overzealous HOA president or anyone else who thinks their position puts them above the law, remember this document. Everything, know your rights, and don't be afraid to call in the proper authorities when necessary. The law is on your side. Even if your neighborhood dictator thinks otherwise, the next one is entitled People Story. I feel like I've slipped into the twilight zone with his whole argument. So tell me what's up, internet folks. Background I, 31 female, and my brother Mark, 35 male. Do not get along when he was a teen. He saw a documentary on factory farming and decided to become a vegetarian. He got very, very annoying about it quickly, but my dad shut him down when he started trying to get the rest of us to be vegetarian with him. Then he went to college, made a bunch of very strange friends, and went militantly vegan. It's his entire personality. I stopped talking to him after he threw a fit about one of my birthday dinners, being at a steakhouse, and spammed my messages in SM with pictures of abused cows. My parents have been trying to repair the situation, and for a while it did seem like Mark was getting better. So I've been letting him back into contact gradually. Then he started dating Pam, who is some kind of vegan influencer. She is apparently moderately popular online, but I have no idea what she does exactly. I don't know if Mark was trying to impress her or what, but last Thanksgiving he insisted that Mom cook at least a vegetarian meal, or they wouldn't come on ethical grounds. My mom just wanted everyone to get along on her favorite holiday, so she agreed it was not a fun meal this year. My parents have downsized for retirement, and my mom is having health problems. I bought their house when they moved, so my mom asked me to host Thanksgiving, so it would be like usual. I told everyone in the group chat so Mark and Pam could make travel arrangements, and Pam immediately started gushing about all the vegan replacement recipes she could give me to replace the traditional ones. I said to send me a main dish recipe they like, and I would give it a shot, but I'm making the traditional meal otherwise, and there should still be plenty of things they can eat. Mark and Pam have been arguing about this with me for days, and then Mark said that if I wouldn't make a meat-free meal, they wouldn't come. This upset my mom, who asked me to just make what she made last year to keep the peace. But I told her that Mark needs to get over himself, and I'm not coddling him. I'm having turkey on Thanksgiving. My dad privately agrees with me. But Mark threatening to not come is upsetting my mom so much that he's worried it will impact her health. There's a not big but also not zero chance that these might be some of the last family holidays we have with her. My mom thinks I'm putting turkey over my own family, and I'm not so sure anymore. Am I the a-hole edit with this blew up? So the answers to some common questions, as I said, I've already offered to make sure there is a main dish and sides they can eat. Mark and Pam will not show up if anyone else eats meat at this meal. If any meat is served to anyone, they won't come. Doing multiple meals that day or across multiple days is a no-go. I'm a newly minted critical care physician at an understaffed hospital during a major holiday week, and I will have a limited window of time between shifts. I have time for one gathering, and I would rather not waste it on a miserable one. Like last year, Mark and Pam can't host because they live in a van at present. I'm also not willing to have them in my kitchen for hours, idioting about the meat in my fridge, the cookware and utensils, and whatever else they can find to complain about the time it would take for them to come eat, socialize for a couple of hours and leave. is the maximum amount I'm willing to let them be in my home. Although it would admittedly be interesting to watch them try to host a family Thanksgiving out of a van, it is very unlikely that my mom is going to die anytime soon. It's just a non-zero chance. She's understandably worried about it and is in the pessimism stage of grieving her health. She has a good prognosis, and most people with her condition pull through and live for a long time afterward. If it is, by some chance, the last Thanksgiving, I don't think a repeat of last year's Thanksgiving would do her any good either, as everyone left that table unsatisfied and unhappy. Edit. So a possible situation to this that I came up with while talking to my partner is to just work through Thanksgiving. Instead, the attending on shift that day would probably be happy to stay home. So swapping wouldn't be hard. Mom would be sad about canceling, but she knows my job is demanding and saves lives, so she won't be upset. Mark and Pam can kick rocks, to be honest. Eating hospital turkey between emergencies sounds better than a family Thanksgiving. Right now, I'll have to turn it over some more. Edit 2 problem, mostly solved. Dad finally hit critical mass and told Mark that if he didn't get his ass here on Thanksgiving to support Mom unconditionally and without a single complaint or argument, the entire time he was disowning and disinheriting him, and the next time he needed money or help, he could forget it. So Mark is theoretically coming. Pam is not. Dad has already ordered the turkey. The recipes Pam sent are ridiculously complicated. So I worked out a deal with one of the nurses at work who is vegan, and she's going to make a couple of her favorite dishes ahead that I can bake day of for Mark. We'll see if he actually manages to show up. Update, people have been asking, and I'm finally out from under the balls to the wall madness at work for a little bit. So buckle up, folks, I have a story. So to recap, my mom is sick and wanted a nice family Thanksgiving at my house, since it used to be the family house, and their new place is small. My vegan brother and his girlfriend refused to come unless the entire meal was vegetarian, i.e., no meat allowed for anyone. I am not okay with being blackmailed over food in my own home. It was upsetting my mom enough that before Thanksgiving, my dad called my brother and told him that if he did not show up to Thanksgiving, support my mom and be pleasant to everyone without a single comment about food, he was disowned. My brother agreed to come. His girlfriend opted out at the time my dad and I planned the meal. I made sure there were plenty of vegetable dishes available and made a deal with a vegan nurse at work to make me a couple of vegan casseroles that I could bake for my brother. My mom was happy, and it was looking like everything was solved. My brother arrived the night before Thanksgiving with the girlfriend. After all, in their van, which they live in, this was unplanned, but at least they showed up. They intended to camp in my yard. I told them absolutely not. They asked if they could stay in my guest room. Then I said that I had not planned for them to stay there, and given their previous behavior, I thought it best if they went and got a hotel room, plus they have a large breed dog with them. I don't have a fenced yard, and I don't want the dog to be in the house. They can't afford a hotel room. He calls Mom. The community my parents live in does not allow overnight guests under 50, so they can't sleep there to end the debate. I pay for a hotel room and allow the dog to hang out in the garage for the night because the hotel doesn't accept pets that large that aren't service animals Thanksgiving Day. My parents come over, other family members, and my partner come early to hang out, and everything is going fine, brother. And girlfriend roll up about 11. They both smell strongly of weed, which is not legal here, which makes things awkward from the start. Girlfriend comes into the kitchen to help, even though everything is almost done, and starts taking pics with her phone without permission and telling my very southern great aunt, who has been cooking since God was a child, how to make cornbread dressing the right vegan way. Several bless your hardest later girlfriend is firmly escorted to the living room instead, since she's a guest. Meanwhile, my brother has cornered my partner, who is also in the medical field, and has the patience of a saint about his vaccine conspiracies. And my dad is just letting it happen, because at least he's not talking about food. Finally, we're ready to eat, and everyone is making a plate. Girlfriend asks a million questions about ingredients and then just gets small portions of 2 side dishes. Not even the actual vegan dishes made by my vegan friend. My brother eats all the vegetable dishes, but comments about how girlfriend makes them better. I notice girlfriend gets up to go to the bathroom a lot, and at one point she's gone for a while, so I go check on her to make sure she's okay. Y'all, this woman was filming a TikTok video for her channel. In my bedroom, I was speechless. She apologized and said that she thought it was the guest room and she needed a minute away from the smell of meat. I told her to stop and go downstairs and that since it's illegal here to record video on private property without the owner's permission, if she posted anything she recorded in my house, I would press charges after we were done eating. My brother pulled me off to the side and told me that I was an idiot for threatening his girlfriend. My partner happened to be close enough to hear and apparently told my dad. Dad asked my brother to help with something outside for a minute. I don't know what was said, but my brother came back and looking pissed reminded girlfriend that they needed to head back to beat traffic, said goodbye to mom, and they left in a hurry, so much of a hurry that they forgot the poor dog who was still out in the garage. And by the time my brother answered a call, he was so worked up, he cussed me out and told me to just keep the dog since I had to have everything my way. And his girlfriend was yelling in the background. When he hung up, my mom either completely missed what was going on or is pretending she doesn't know. So we don't have to talk about it. But she said she had a good Thanksgiving, and it was nice to have everyone together. My dad hasn't said anything about what he told my brother, but he wants to take mom to the beach for Christmas and asked if my partner and I wanted to go without saying anything about my brother and his girlfriend. My cousin checked up on girlfriend's channel and says that she's posted videos, but they're from the hotel the night before in the van afterwards, so at least she has the sense to be warned. I've sent messages and so have my dad and partner offering to try to get the dog back to them, but so far neither of them are talking. I don't want to take the poor thing to the shelter. It's not his fault and he's not a bad dog, just big and excitable. The next one is entitled People Story. I've been a high school girl, so I know bullying in the form of ostracization, but this is not the case. There are no office politics oppressing the victim. More or less, everyone in our office became close-knit about 3 months ago. We were all in the same training class for a new branch in our company after finishing training. Majority of the people in the office felt comfortable exchanging Facebook info. One person, Kathy 25F, told us all she didn't use Facebook. This was a lie because I had searched her name and found her before she stated this. It was an active and very public account. But I never outed her to the rest of the group. I believed it was her nice way of turning us down. I understood because not everyone is comfortable with work friends on their personal media some weeks past, and she lets it slip that she has a Facebook. Something about her dislike about her friends sharing stuff on her feed. She was called out and she admitted she just didn't want to mix business with pleasure. Kathy didn't want work to get mixed with her personal life again. We understand, so more months passed, and during said months, our group interacted outside of work. We went shopping together, had barbecue movie nights, drank wine and watched Scandal, etc. And with this came inside jokes, more invitations and emotional connections. Last Monday, Kathy complained to me that our co-workers Brad and Joey were having a laugh during break. She, feeling left out, asked what was so funny. They said she just had to be there to get it. She asked them to say it anyway and that she'd probably get it. They did through giggles, and when Kathy didn't laugh, they repeated she just had to be there to get it. When Kathy repeated the joke for me, I burst out laughing because it was an inside joke about something that happened at Joey's movie night. Kathy seemed hurt and went back to her desk today. During break, Patrice asked our other coworker Nancy what she should bring to Scandal. Night this exchange happened in front of me and Kathy again. Kathy piped up and asked what they were talking about. They explained that a few of us co-workers were getting together to watch Scandal and drink wine girl talk and stuff. They then started a conversation about the latest episode. Kathy pulled me to the side and asked if everyone was doing things without her. I told her yes. She asked why she wasn't invited, and I explained that it was because she told us she didn't want to mix business with pleasure. She still insisted it was rude not to ask, and they were using office politics to bully her. She ranted about how she feels victimized and ostracized when she isn't included. How do I explain it to her that her not being included is her fault, and she can't force people to invite her update? I talked to my coworkers during our time before shift starts, usually a coffee and donuts thing for everyone. I phrased it so that it seemed like I was hurt by the group talking about Scandal night in front of me. They understood and promised to keep that to themselves. I also stated that maybe next time me and Kathy could go. Nancy was confused, and Brad was visually disagreeing, pissed. Apparently Kathy lied to me about not being invited. Why, I don't know. Nancy sent Kathy a FB message weeks ago. Nancy said that she was thinking about having a TV and wine night. She listed a few shows and asked Kathy which would like to watch. It took Kathy a few days to respond. After reading it, in the response, she said she had better things to do than drink cheap wine and watch trash TV also, to not message her on FB again. I physically saw the message to confirm it wasn't some fake screenshot. I asked Nancy why she didn't tell us about this, and she said it would make the workplace hostile. Brad also noted Kathy was an idiot and that I should just check out her Facebook, so I did. And like before, it's a very active and public account apparently. For months, she's been posting status. Kathy's tea about our workplace, sometimes venting, sometimes actually harmful statements. One that really bothered Brad was when she took creep shots of everyone and posted that he was a fat and worked hard, or something about Tyler Perry. He only found this out because one of Kathy's FB friends sent it to him. I was also not left out, as she posted a direct photo from my own social media and captioned it that I'm a bottle redhead who sets feminists back. There was something about NY's scandal night, but she called it for desperate soccer moms and wannabe Stepford wives. Brad said he didn't want to tell us because he went to HR and they haven't gotten back to him yet. That they said, though, it counts as cyberbullying. It's her social media, but she had her phone on the work floor against the rules. So now I have all this information and confused on what to do. Kathy's been lying to me and very rude herself. But why would she lie to me? What her endgame? I have about 4 hours until my break with Kathy. Should I confront her? Update 2. So I didn't confront Kathy during break. I didn't even get to decide whether or not I wanted to, because as soon as my break started, my supervisor, Linda, approached me. Linda explained that she knew Kathy reached out to me about the office clique over lunch. She told a story about how something like this happened to her in high school, and that Kathy was reaching out to me to be her proxy, that she knows I don't hold these events, but I should speak on Kathy's behalf. I said I understood when another supervisor, Dan, butted in. Dan said Kathy also told him about the office problem, but he ignored it because he knew she has been invited. They discussed it among themselves and cited that people have used the company email to send out invites. This allowed the supervisor to see the exchanges between everyone. Kathy had been invited and bluntly stated no to several things and not to waste her time. Linda apologized to me and told me to forget about the Kathy issue, but the core message still counts. When I went to the break room, Kathy made a beeline for me. She started questioning me about how my talk with the supervisor went, how together we could take down the Aegis office group, and that we should get coffee after work. I lied, saying I had a family thing and went home at home. I checked the Reddit post and went back on to Kathy's FB. There was a new post about how she was playing a little office prank on the office idiot. People commented her to spill, but she didn't update them. I feel like that was about me. I started screen capping her posts, though, only the ones that flat out bullied people. I felt like HR would care about those than any gray areas. Aside from the racist post about Brad, she made a post about a plan to sleep with a married coworker by getting him drunk. All of this has been weird at work. Kathy is a professional, determined, and a little headstrong. But in this field, that's a good thing. She gets good scores, sure, reviews from clients. But now all I see is her posting vile things about people I care about, calling it truth, then running to me like a victim of a make-believe problem. I'm going to avoid her unless we're on a project together. I don't want to be her flying monkey. I don't know what to believe from her anymore. Are you hungry for more stories? Don't forget to. A guest. Meanwhile, my brother has cornered my partner, who is also in the medical field, and has the patience of a saint about his vaccine conspiracies. And my dad is just letting it happen, because at least he's not talking about food. Finally, we're ready to eat, and everyone is making a plate. Girlfriend asks a million questions about ingredients and then just gets small portions of 2 side dishes. Not even the actual vegan dishes made by my vegan friend. My brother eats all the vegetable dishes, but comments about how girlfriend makes them better. I notice girlfriend gets up to go to the bathroom a lot, and at one point she's gone for a while, so I go check on her to make sure she's okay. Y'all, this woman was filming a TikTok video for her channel. In my bedroom, I was speechless. She apologized and said that she thought it was the guest room, and she needed a minute away from the smell of meat. I told her to stop and go downstairs, and that since it's illegal here to record video on private property without the owner's permission, if she posted anything she recorded in my house, I would press charges after we were done eating. My brother pulled me off to the side and told me that I was an idiot for threatening his girlfriend. My partner happened to be close enough to hear and apparently told my dad. Dad asked my brother to help with something outside for a minute. I don't know what was said, but my brother came back and looking pissed reminded girlfriend that they needed to head back to beat traffic, said goodbye to mom, and they left in a hurry, so much of a hurry that they forgot the poor dog who was still out in the garage. And by the time my brother answered a call, he was so worked up, he cussed me out and told me to just keep the dog since I had to have everything my way. And his girlfriend was yelling in the background. When he hung up, my mom either completely missed what was going on or is pretending she doesn't know. So we don't have to talk about it. But she said she had a good Thanksgiving, and it was nice to have everyone together. My dad hasn't said anything about what he told my brother, but he wants to take mom to the beach for Christmas and asked if my partner and I wanted to go, without saying anything about my brother and his girlfriend. My cousin checked up on girlfriend's channel and says that she's posted videos, but they're from the hotel the night before in the van afterwards, so at least she has the sense to be warned. I've sent messages and so have my dad and partner offering to try to get the dog back to them, but so far neither of them are talking. I don't want to take the poor thing to the shelter. It's not his fault and he's not a bad dog, just big and excitable. The next one is entitled People Story. I've been a high school girl, so I know bullying in the form of ostracization, but this is not the case. There are no office politics oppressing the victim. More or less, everyone in our office became close-knit about 3 months ago. We were all in the same training class for a new branch in our company after finishing training. Majority of the people in the office felt comfortable exchanging Facebook info. One person, Kathy 25F, told us all she didn't use Facebook. This was a lie because I had searched her name and found her before she stated this. It was an active and very public account. But I never outed her to the rest of the group. I believed it was her nice way of turning us down. I understood because not everyone is comfortable with work friends on their personal media some weeks past, and she lets it slip that she has a Facebook. Something about her dislike about her friends sharing stuff on her feed. She was called out and she admitted she just didn't want to mix business with pleasure. Kathy didn't want work to get mixed with her personal life again. We understand, so more months passed, and during said months, our group interacted outside of work. We went shopping together, had barbecue movie nights, drank wine and watched Scandal, etc. And with this came inside jokes, more invitations and emotional connections. Last Monday, Kathy complained to me that our coworkers Brad and Joey were having a laugh during break. She, feeling left out, asked what was so funny. They said she just had to be there to get it. She asked them to say it anyway, and that she'd probably get it. They did through giggles, and when Kathy didn't laugh, they repeated she just had to be there to get it. When Kathy repeated the joke for me, I burst out laughing because it was an inside joke about something that happened at Joey's movie night. Kathy seemed hurt and went back to her desk today. During break, Patrice asked our other coworker Nancy what she should bring to Scandal. Night this exchange happened in front of me and Kathy again. Kathy piped up and asked what they were talking about. They explained that a few of us coworkers were getting together to watch Scandal and drink wine girl talk and stuff. They then started a conversation about the latest.